We spend so much time thinking about the surgery itself, right? Like making sure everything goes well in the operating room.
Yeah.
But what about what happens after? Like the pain,
Right. Yeah.
managing that afterward. There's a whole huge market dedicated to making sure that recovery is as comfortable as possible.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's a market that's changing rapidly.
It really is. Yeah.
So today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the global market for postoperative pain therapeutics.
Okay.
We've got a fascinating new report that's packed with insights.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to unpack the most important bits for you.
Sounds good.
Give you a sense of the size of this market, the trends, the key players, all that good stuff.
Yeah, we're talking billions of dollars here.
Billions. To give you an idea, this report estimates the global market to be worth almost $15 billion.
Wow.
USD, $14.97 billion to be exact, in 2025.
All right.
That is huge.
And it's only getting bigger.
That's right. It's projected to reach USD 23.32 billion by 2033. That's a compound annual growth rate, or AGR, of 5.7%.
That's impressive growth.
It is. So let's break it down geographically.
Okay.
Where is all this activity happening?
Well, right now, North America is leading the pack.
That sense.
They've got over 37% of the market share.
Yeah.
And their market size in 2025 is estimated at USD 5.54 billion.
All right.
And they're looking at a CAGR of 4.2% from 2025 to 2033.
Okay. So within North America, the U.S. is probably the biggest player, right?
Oh, absolutely. The U.S. market alone is projected to reach USD 4.37 billion in 2025.
Wow.
And their CAGR is 4%.
What's fueling that growth?
Well, there's a lot of innovation happening in drug formulations,
Oh, interesting.
like extended release medications, more targeted delivery systems, things like that.
Makes sense. So what about our neighbors to the north, Canada?
Canada's market is estimated at USD 664.67 million in 2025, with a CAGR of 5%.
Okay.
And they're really focused on reducing opioid dependency.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of growth in alternative therapies there.
That's great. And Mexico?
Mexico's a bit smaller at USD 504.04 million in 2025.
Okay.
With a projected CGR of 4.7%.
So North America's number one for now.
Right.
Where does Europe fit into all of this?
Europe's got the second largest market share, over 29%.
Okay.
Their market size in 2025 is about USD 4.34 billion,
Right.
and they're projecting a CGR of 4.8% between 2025 and 2033.
So within Europe, are there any particular countries that stand out?
Yeah, you've got the UK, which is going to hit USD 729.34 million in 2025,
Okay.
with a CGR of 5.6%.
All right.
Germany's even bigger, estimated at USD 859.58 million,
Wow.
with a CGR of 5%.
Yeah, I've heard about that, tailoring treatments to individual patients.
Exactly.
So what about France and Italy?
France is at USD 399.4 million, with a CGR of 4%.
Okay.
And Italy's at USD 373.35 million, with a CGR of 4.2%.
What about other parts of Europe?
Oh, yeah. Russia's a big market, estimated at USD 672.90 in 2025.
All right.
Though their CGR is a bit lower at 3.8%. Spain's at USD 355.99 million, with a 3.9% CAGR.
Okay.
Then you've got some smaller but still growing markets like Sweden
Yeah.
at USD 134.58 million, with a 4.9% CAGR.
All right.
Denmark at USD 91.17 million, CAGR of 4.6%.
Okay.
Switzerland at USD 65.12 million, 4.4% CGR.
Got it.
Even Luxembourg, tiny little Luxembourg, is at USD 52.10 million with a 5.1% CAGR.
Wow, they're really growing.
Yeah, and the rest of Europe combined is at USD 607.78 million with a KGR of 3.5%.
So lots of different growth patterns across Europe.
Absolutely, it's quite diverse.
All right, let's shift gears and talk about the Asia-Pacific region, APAC.
Okay.
We always hear about how much that region is growing economically and
Right.
how healthcare is becoming more and more of a focus there.
Yeah.
So what's the picture like for postoperative pain therapeutics in APAC?
Well, they've currently got about 24% of the global market share,
Right.
with a 2025 market size of USD 3.59 billion.
Okay. But here's the thing. Their CAGR is projected to be 8.4%.
Wow, that's way higher than North America and Europe. Yeah, it's really taken off there.
So which countries in APAC are driving that growth?
China's a major player. They're at USD 1.51 billion in 2025 with a projected CGR of 7.9%.
That's huge.
Yeah, they're investing a lot in healthcare infrastructure.
Makes sense. And Japan?
Japan's at USD 495.81 million with a 6.9% CGIR.
Okay.
South Korea's also doing well at USD 431.14 million and a 7.5% CGR.
All right.
They're really focusing on pain management strategy.
That's great to hear. What about some of those other fast-growing economies in the region?
Well, India is really interesting. Their CAGR is projected to be a whopping 10.3%.
Wow, that's the highest we've seen.
Yeah, and their market size in 2025 is USD 359.28 million.
All right.
Australia is also growing steadily at 7.7%, with a market size of USD 186.83 million.
Okay.
Singapore smaller at USD 71.86 million, but they have the highest CAGR in all of APAC at 8.7%.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, Taiwan's at USD 740.12 million with an 8.2% CAGR.
Okay.
Southeast Asia combined is at USD 237.12 million with a 9.2% CAGR. And the rest of APAC is at USD 161.68 million with an 8.2% CAGR.
So APAC is definitely the region to watch.
Yeah, tons of growth happening there.
Okay, let's move on to South America now.
Okay.
What's the situation there?
It's a smaller piece of the global pie, just over 4%,
All right.
with a 2025 market size of USD 558.86 million.
Okay.
But they're still expecting a solid TGR of 6.4% from 2025 to 2033.
So who are the main players in South America?
Brazil's the biggest market at USD 243.47 million in 2025 with a 7% CAGR.
Okay.
They're really starting to embrace modern pain management techniques.
That's good to hear. Argentina?
Argentina's at USD 95.57 million
All right.
with a CAGR of 7.3%. There's a growing preference there for non-opioid pain relief options.
Interesting. What about Colombia, Peru, and Chile?
Colombia's at USD 50.63 million with a 6.2% CGR.
Okay.
Peru's at USD 46.65 million, 6.6% CGR.
Right.
And Chile's at USD 40.96 million with a CGR of 6.7%.
All right.
The rest of South America combined is at USD 91.59 million with a CGR of 5.5%.
So steady growth across the board in South America.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, time to talk about the Middle East.
Okay.
What's going on over there?
The Middle East has about 4% of the global market share,
Okay.
with a 2025 market size of USD 598.80 million.
Yeah.
And they're looking at a KGR of 7%.
So who are the key players in the Middle East?
Saudi Arabia is the biggest, with a market size of USD 210.78 million in 2025,
Okay.
and a KGR of 7.3%.
All right, and then the UAE.
The UAE's at USD 123.35 million, with a KGR of 7.5%.
Got it.
Turkey's at USD 47.90 million, 7.6% CGR. They're doing a lot to raise awareness about pain management options.
That's great. What about Qatar?
Qatar's also at USD 47.90 million, but their CAGR is 6.5%.
Yeah.
They've been investing in healthcare infrastructure.
Yeah, I've heard that. And Egypt.
Egypt's at USD 35.93 million with a CAGR of 6.8%.
Okay.
And the rest of the Middle East combined is at USD 132.93 million with a 6.2% CGR.
So Middle East is another region with strong growth potential.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, last but not least, let's talk about Africa. It's often seen as a region with so much untapped potential.
Right.
So what's the outlook for postoperative pain therapeutics there?
Africa's got a smaller share of the global market right now, around 2.2%,
Okay.
with a 2025 market size of USD 329.34 million.
All right.
But they're still projecting a decent CAGR of 6%.
So who are the major players in the African market?
South Africa is leading the way at USD 115.93 million in 2025, with a 6.9% CAGR.
Okay.
Nigeria is at USD 26.35 million with a 6.2% CAGR.
Oh,
There's a lot more awareness about pain management options these days.
that's good.
And the rest of Africa.
The rest of Africa combined is at USD 187.07 million with a CAGR of 5.2%.
So we're seeing growth across all these different regions, even though the pace varies quite a bit.
Yeah.
What are the main factors that are driving this global expansion?
Well, one big factor is the ongoing development of non-opioid drugs.
Right, there's a real push to find alternatives to opioids.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of all the concerns about addiction and overdose.
Yeah.
So what else is fueling this growth? Well, there's also a lot more awareness these days among both patients and healthcare providers
Okay.
about the importance of managing pain after surgery.
Makes sense. So people are more proactive about it now.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
Sadly, the growing prevalence of chronic pain conditions
Yeah.
and the fact that more and more surgical procedures are being performed globally,
Right.
that's also contributing to the need for these types of therapeutics.
That makes sense. So we've got all these drivers, but are there any factors that might be slowing down the market's growth?
Yeah, there are definitely some restraints.
Okay, like what?
Well, some of the newer pain treatments can be quite expensive,
That's true.
and that can limit access for people in certain regions,
Yeah, especially in places with less developed healthcare systems.
right? And even for people with insurance, some of these treatments might not be fully covered.
I see. And of course, there's still a lot of concern about opioid misuse.
Absolutely. The opioid crisis has had a huge impact. And it's making people hesitant to use opioid-based pain relievers.
Even when they might be appropriate.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance.
It is. So looking ahead, what are some of the key trends that are going to shape this market?
Well, we're definitely seeing a shift towards non-opioid analgesics.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And there's a lot of interest in innovative pain management strategies.
Like what?
Multimodal approaches, for example.
Okay.
That means combining different types of pain relief medications
Right.
and techniques that work in different ways.
Okay.
So you can get better pain control with fewer side effects.
That's great. And what about personalized medicine?
Personalized medicine is a big trend, too.
Yeah.
It's all about tailoring treatments to the individual patient.
So taking into account their genetics and their specific needs.
Exactly.
That's really interesting. So who are the companies that are operating in this space?
There's a mix of established pharmaceutical companies and smaller biotech firms.
Okay.
And they're all competing to develop new non-opioid therapies. Better local anesthetics and those multimodal approaches we were talking about.
Got it.
There's a lot of activity in terms of partnerships and acquisitions.
Yeah.
Companies are joining forces to expand their reach.
Right.
And they're investing heavily in research and development.
So what are some of the hot areas of innovation?
Biological therapies are getting a lot of attention.
Okay.
And new drug delivery systems,
Like what?
like extended release injectables.
Oh, wow. So you wouldn't have to take pills as often.
Exactly. It's all about improving convenience and patient compliance.
That's great. The report you mentioned highlighted some specific examples of recent activity.
Oh, yeah.
Could you share a few of those with us?
Sure. In October 2024, Allay Therapeutics expanded their clinical and scientific advisory boards.
Okay.
They brought in experts to help them develop their extended duration pain management solutions.
So they're really focusing on long-lasting relief without opioids.
Yeah, their ATX-101 product is in phase 2B clinical trials right now.
Interesting. What else?
AtriCure launched the Cryosphere Max Probe.
Okay.
It's a new tool for cryoablation.
What's cryoablation?
It's a technique for managing pain by freezing nerves.
Oh, wow.
And this new probe can freeze the nerves much faster.
So it's a more efficient procedure.
Exactly.
Interesting. And what was the third example?
Heron Therapeutics partnered with Crosslink Life Sciences
Okay.
to expand the sales and distribution of their product, ZYNREF.
Right.
It's a combination of a local anesthetic and an anti-inflammatory drug.
Okay.
And they're specifically targeting orthopedic applications.
So it's another non-opioid option for pain relief.
Yeah, and this partnership will help more patients access it.
That's great. So we've got all these companies innovating and collaborating.
Right.
Let's talk about the different segments of this market and how they're performing.
Okay.
First off, the different types of drugs.
Yeah.
Are there any trends there?
Well, NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, are still the most popular.
Yeah, they're pretty effective for mild to moderate pain.
Right. And they don't have the same risks as opioids.
So they're a safe option for a lot of people.
Exactly. But what's really interesting is that the anti-epileptic drug segment is growing the fastest.
Anti-epileptic drugs for pain.
Yeah, it might sound strange,
It does.
but they're really effective for neuropathic pain,
Which is?
nerve pain. It's a complication that can happen after some surgery.
Mouse.
And anti-epileptic drugs can help manage that pain without using opioids.
So they're a valuable alternative.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about how these pain medications are given to patients.
Oh,
Are there different methods?
yeah, there are different routes of administration.
Okay.
Right now, intravenous or IV delivery is the most common.
That makes sense. It gets the medication into the bloodstream quickly,
Yeah, and it's easy to control the dosage.
which is important right after surgery.
Exactly.
But oral administration is growing rapidly.
Really? Why is that?
Well, once the patient is stable and recovering at home,
Yeah.
oral medications are more convenient. I see. You don't need an IV anymore.
Right. And there have been a lot of advancements in sustained release and extended release formulations.
Oh, wow. So you wouldn't have to take the medication as often.
Exactly. It's all about making things easier for the patient.
That's great. All right, last segment. How are these medications distributed to patients?
Hospital pharmacies are still the main distribution channel.
Yeah, they're right there in the hospital.
Right. But online pharmacies are growing the fastest.
Online pharmacies. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's all about convenience and accessibility.
People can just order their medications from home?
Exactly. And sometimes the prices are better online, too.
That makes sense. The rise of telemedicine is probably contributing to this trend, too.
Oh, absolutely. People are getting more comfortable with remote healthcare.
It's amazing to see how all these different aspects of the market are interconnected
Yeah.
and how they're changing in response to all these different factors.
Quite dynamic.
So to sum it all up for our listeners,
Okay.
what are the key takeaways from this deep dive? Well, first of all, this market is huge.
Yeah.
Almost $15 billion globally in 2025.
And growing rapidly.
Yeah, it's expected to be worth over $23 billion by 2033.
Those numbers are incredible.
They are. We've also seen how different regions are growing at different rates,
Yeah.
with APAC leading the charge.
Right.
The market is being driven by innovation in non-opioid drugs
Yeah.
and a greater focus on pain management.
But there are still challenges with cost and concerns about opioids.
Absolutely. Other key trends to watch include personalized medicine and new drug delivery systems.
Yeah.
And the competitive landscape is constantly evolving.
Right. Lots of partnerships and acquisitions and a ton of investment in research and development.
Yeah, it's an exciting time for this market.
It is. And just to reiterate the scale we're talking about,
Okay.
USD 14.97 billion in 2025.
Wow.
On its way to USD 23.32 billion by 2033.
That's massive.
It is. So as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a few questions to think about.
Okay.
Given all these trends we've discussed.
Yeah. The shift towards non-opioid options.
Right.
The different growth patterns in different regions.
Yeah.
The move towards personalized medicine. And the changing landscape of how these medications are accessed.
Okay.
What does all this mean for healthcare professionals?
That's a great question.
What opportunities and challenges are pharmaceutical companies going to face?
Yeah.
And most importantly, how will all these changes impact patients?
It's really about finding the right balance.
Yeah, between effective pain relief
Right.
and the risks associated with different treatment options.
Exactly.
So there's a lot to consider as this market continues to evolve.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating area to watch.
It is. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
My pleasure.
We'll see you next time.